again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. Today I'm going to show you a cool little lick and technique used by Billy Sheehan in some of his unaccompanied solos. It's a fairly easy lick to get under your fingers and it can really help with getting started with two-handed tapping. If you'd like to download the lesson material for this video, just follow the link in the info below and you'll be taken over to talkingbass.net, where you can download the PDF of the sheet music and tab. You can also look around the lesson map, where there's over 150 other free lessons, all categorized for ease of navigation. And if that floats your boat, just subscribe for free to gain access to loads of extra bass practice resources. There's free ebooks, backing tracks, a forum, and much, much more. So go check it out. Okay, so the lick that we're going to be looking at today sounds like this. Okay, so that lick is used by Billy Sheehan in his unaccompanied bass solo NV43345, which is from the Sink Your Teeth Into That album by his old band Talas. And just in case you're wondering, that title NV43345 is just his surname, Sheehan, backwards, but with some numbers in there. So this lick, it was probably the first tapping lick that I ever learned, and you know, back in the early 90s, Billy Sheehan was like my hero. So I used to learn all these tapping licks, and this one is really, really, really good for just getting your tapping hand working and kind of building a callus up on that index finger, because you know it really takes a hammering with this kind of thing. So this is a great lick for getting started with tapping. So the basic principle behind this lick is that we hold down a chord, like there's a D major bar chord, and then with this hand, with the tapping hand, we simply tap out various chord tones or scale notes like this. Okay, so I'm simply tapping and then pulling off to the notes of the chord. So the main thing is that you've got to be careful that you're playing things that are within that scale or, you know, within that tonality. But, you know, to begin with, I'll just run through the various notes that Billy Sheehan plays on that solo, and then you can experiment yourself. So let's begin with a look at that chord shape. So as I mentioned before, it's a D major bar chord. We call it a bar chord because that first finger there, the index finger, is barring across the strings. And any of you that have played guitar before, that, you know, that play some bar chords on there, this is simply a bar chord taken straight across from guitar and moved onto bass, but we don't have the B and the E strings on the top. So we're going to take that index finger, the first finger, and we're going to lay it straight across all the strings there at the 10th fret. Now don't worry too much about holding all the strings down at the same time, we don't need to do that. We're going to be holding down the D at the 10th fret of the E string, and that's pretty much with the pad of that finger, okay? And then you want to be holding down the F at the 10th fret of the G string, with pretty much that second joint down there. So this is that joint there. So that's going to be kind of catching that and pushing down on the G string. So really we're only pushing down the E and the G strings. And actually don't worry too much about the G string, because we're actually going to put another note on there. So next we take the ring finger, the third finger, and we fret the 12th fret of the A string, the A. And then we take the pinky, the fourth finger, and we fret the D at the 12th fret of the D string. So we've got 10th fret E string, then 12th fret on the A and D strings. First finger, third finger, fourth finger, okay? So any of you that know a power chord, as I've shown you in some of the other videos, that's what we've got on the bottom three strings there. Next, we take that second finger, the only one that's left there, and we take that and put that on the F sharp 11th fret of the G string. Okay, so it has to bend back a little. So, you know, it curls right round. So make sure you get these fingers done first, and then just take that finger and pop it down on that F sharp, okay? Then you can simply play across them, and there we have that chord. Now, I know that if you've never played any chords before, this can be pretty tough to begin with. I'm pretty sure that Billy Sheehan already played guitar a little bit, because this is straight out of you know, the guitar, this bar chord pattern. And if any of you play guitar, it will probably seem a lot easier to play on here. But if you've never played them before, just keep at it. Just keep playing it. Your fingers might hurt a little at first. Just play it for a while, then stop, you know, come back to it. You'll build up the strength and it'll come in time. To play the chord, you can either just strum straight across, or I'm taking thumb, first finger, second finger, third finger, and then just picking across, but that's unimportant because we're going to be tapping, obviously. But to begin with, that's all you want to try. Just try getting that chord under your fingers, and you want to be able to go from nothing to holding pulling it down, okay? Now let's have a look at the tapped notes in that lick. So you want to begin by getting into position with that D major bar chord. And then we're simply going to take the first finger or index finger of the picking hand or tapping hand, and we're going to tap out those top notes. Now, just as a couple of tips before we play those tapped notes, I pretty much use the Billy Sheehan method of doing this, where you take the index finger and then instead of just tapping down like this, put the second finger on the back of the first finger. So you just push it down on the back like that, and it gives you a lot more strength and rigidity in pressing these notes down. So if I was to just tap with that first finger, you know, it doesn't feel as sturdy and stable. If I put the second finger on the back, we've got a lot more strength in there, okay? So a lot more weight in pushing down. The other tip is to take the thumb and anchor it on the side of the neck so that we've got a nice stable base there. So you can see there I've got the thumb, I'm just putting it on the side of the neck, put the second finger on the back of the finger and... Okay, so those are the first two tips in terms of this tapping hand. So with this lick, the tapping's all going to take place on the 14th fret of each string, okay? So we're going to have the F sharp there, 14th fret of the E string. Then we're going to have the B, the 14th fret of the A string. Then the E, 14th fret of the D string. And finally the A, 14th fret of the G string. So we're only tapping on that 14th fret, so that's incredibly easy to remember. And the action involves tapping down, and then we pull off to the fretted notes. So again, get into position with that finger, you know, thumb on the side, second finger on the back of the first finger, tap down, so just as if you're hammering down on that note on the 14th fret of the E string, and then simply let the finger slip off the side of the string to pull off, which will give you the D there at the 10th fret of the E string. So tap and pull off. And that's it, that's the whole action. So we just hold down that chord, tap, pull off. Next string, tap, pull off. Next string, tap, pull off. Next string, tap, whoops, tap, pull off. Okay? And that's it. And we just go up and down, up and down. So, just begin slowly, making sure you've got a nice clean technique there as you work across. You don't want any scuffed notes. You don't want to slip off the side of the string like that. Make sure it's clean, slow, and then just gradually build up speed. And always try to retain the same strength of hit in the tap so that you keep the same volume. Just build up speed. If you've never played chords before and never played tapping before, then be prepared to get a little bit of pain in both hands. You're going to get a little bit of pain from the sort of strange positioning of this hand in with the chord, so in the fretting hand, and then in the picking hand, you're likely to get a sore finger on the end because this is a lot more wear and tear on that finger than it is with, let's say, picking, unless you pick incredibly hard. But it really does put your finger to the test with your callus. So after a while of just doing that over and over and over again, you're likely to get quite a big callus on that first finger. But it's really, really good for, you know, getting into the other kind of tapping licks eventually. So this, you know, even though it's a very simple lick, it's a very nice sounding lick, and again, it builds up the strength and the callus. Once you have that lick under your fingers, we can get a slight variation on that pattern by simply minorizing the chord. So instead of a D major bar chord, we can play a D minor bar chord. Okay, so all we're doing is dropping that top note down a fret. So then the lick is going to sound like this. So we've got a much sadder sound. There's the major and the minor. And Billy Sheehan actually uses both of those chords, you know, moving between them in NV43345. So for that D minor bar chord, all we do is we take the D major bar chord that we've already practiced, and then we simply take that second finger and lift it off. That's it. But remember that we have to have this index finger, the first finger there, barred across. So you want to be holding down the D at the 10th fret of the E string with the pad of that finger. Just as I mentioned earlier, we use that joint there, second joint down, to hold down that 10th fret at the G string. So that's you know, absolutely essential for this bar chord. So now all we have is 10th fret E string, 12th fret A string and D string, and then 10th fret G string, held down with that first finger. So just get used to holding down that minor chord. Okay? For the tapped notes, everything's going to be the same on the 14th fret apart from on the E string. So if we get into position with the minor bar chord, we're going to be tapping the 13th fret of the E string, and that gives us the minor third in there. So we've got the F, 13th fret of the E string, and then the rest of the notes are just the same as in the other leg. So we've got 14th fret, 14th fret, 14th fret, okay? So 13th, 14th, 14th, 14th. Okay, so then once you've nailed that, you know, just work up and down it, and then you can try going between the two chords. So start with the D major bar chord. Try that a few times. And then just simply go to the minor. So that's the basics of that NV43345 lick. So once you have that under your fingers, just try moving it around. So, you know, just try moving it around to different chords on the neck. And just try moving it around. As well as moving notes of the fretting hand around, we can also move those tapped notes around. So with the D major bar chord, like that, we can play notes of the D major scale or the D major chord to move around the neck. So if you look around for the NV43345 tab, you'll see some of the patterns that Billy uses to create cool progressions and lines. So try playing some of his licks and also experiment by creating your own. Okay? I'll see you later.